In the distant reaches of the galaxy, where stars burned like beacons of civilization and space stations glittered like jewels against the void, humanity had finally found its place. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as diplomats, bridges between worlds that would otherwise never understand each other. Among these diplomatic missions, none carried greater weight than the one on Elysium Station, where the Galactic Diplomatic Union was holding its most critical peace conference in centuries. Ambassador Rebecca Beck Thorne stood at the viewport of her quarters, watching the dance of distant starships as they ferried delegations from across known space. The cold light of stars reflected in her eyes, which had seen far more violence than any diplomat should have. Before the title of ambassador, before the perfectly tailored suit, and the diplomatic credentials, Beck had been Marine Commander Thorne, Interplanetary Marines, a warrior whose hands had taken lives to protect others. She adjusted her formal attire, a sleek black suit with the blue and white Earth insignia on the breast pocket, simple compared to the ornate garb other species wore, but humans had always valued function over form. Function had kept them alive on a planet that tried to kill them daily, and function had earned them respect among the stars. Ambassador Thorne, a synthesized voice called through her quarters. The opening ceremony will commence in 30 minutes. Your presence is requested in the Grand Hall. Acknowledged, Beck replied, turning from the viewport. Her reflection caught her eye. Short-cropped dark hair with strands of premature gray sharp features, weathered by combat and stress, and eyes that had seen too much death. Not the typical diplomat, but Earth didn't need typical anymore. They needed someone who understood both peace and war. The hallways of Elysium Station hummed with activity. Representatives from over 200 worlds moved through the corridors, their forms varying from humanoid to utterly alien. Beck passed a group of Vocari, their crystalline exoskeletons catching the light and refracting it into rainbow patterns on the walls. They towered over most species, nearly 9 feet tall, with 4 arms and internal organs visible through translucent outer layers. The Thalnir delegation glided past on anti-gravity discs, their gelatinous bodies housing multiple brain clusters. Evolution had taken strange paths on their water-dominated world, producing beings of pure intellect who communicated through color patterns and electrical signals. And there, near the entrance to the Grand Hall, stood the Zori representatives closest to humans in appearance, but with iridescent scaled skin and compound eyes that missed nothing. Their civilization was among the oldest in the known galaxy, and their diplomatic corps was legendary. Beck's attention was drawn to the security checkpoints, where officials were scanning every delegate for weapons. The peace conference had one absolute rule: no weapons of any kind were permitted. After the last near conflict over resources on the death world of Proxima Centauri 5, a planet so hostile that even its microbes were classified as lethal, the GDU had established this conference as the last chance for peaceful resolution. Ambassador Thorne, called a familiar voice. Beck turned to see Ambassador Jarnox of the Vocari, approaching crystalline limbs, moving with surprising grace. I trust you are prepared for the negotiations. As prepared as one can be when the fate of several quadrants hangs in the balance, Beck replied with a diplomatic smile. Indeed. Jarnox's inner organs pulsed with blue light, a sign of amusement or perhaps anticipation. Your species continues to surprise us. For beings from such a violent world, you show remarkable restraint in diplomatic matters. Perhaps it's because we understand the cost of violence better than most, Beck said, keeping her expression neutral, despite the veiled condescension in the Vocari's tone. Perhaps. The crystalline being's upper arms gestured toward the hall. After you, Ambassador. Let us see if humans can contribute meaningfully to galactic peace. The Grand Hall of Elysium Station was a marvel of collaborative engineering. A vast dome of transparent alloys revealed the star-studded blackness of space above, while the floor was a mosaic of precious materials from 1,000 worlds. In the center stood the negotiation table, circular, to symbolize equality, with sections that could be raised or lowered to accommodate the physiological needs of any species. Beck took her place at the human section, nodding to the other Earth representatives. The Zori contingent settled to her left, while the massive Vokari took positions across the table. The amorphous Thalnir hovered at their assigned stations, their bodies rippling with patterns of thought and communication. Supreme Moderator Elam, a neutron-based lifeform, contained within an elaborate mechanical shell, moved to the center of the hall. The being's voice resonated through specialized speakers, translating simultaneously into all known languages. Representatives of the Galactic Diplomatic Union, we convene today to address the growing tensions over resource allocation in the Proxima Centauri system. The Death World, as it is commonly known, contains elements vital to all our civilizations. Our goal is to establish a fair and sustainable approach to harvesting these resources without further conflict. The opening speeches proceeded for hours. Beck listened attentively, noting the positions and unspoken intentions of each major player. The Vokari wanted exclusive mining rights, citing their superior technology. The Thalnir emphasized research access, as the planet's unique ecology could advance their bioengineering. The Zori advocated for controlled shared access, with strict quotas. When Beck's turn came, she stood with the composed dignity that had become Earth's diplomatic trademark. Honored representatives, Earth and her colonies recognize the value of Proxima Centauri 5 to all our civilizations. We propose a joint operation, drawing on Vokari extraction technology, Thalnir biological expertise, Zori logistical systems, and human adaptability. We have survived a death world. We understand better than most how to work with, rather than against hostile environments. Her proposal was met with measured consideration, not enthusiastic support, but not immediate rejection either. It was a start. As the first day's session concluded, Beck felt cautiously optimistic. That night, while most delegates attended the formal reception, Beck spent her time reviewing the day's proceedings and preparing for tomorrow's negotiations. A soft chime at her door interrupted her work. Dr. Solara of the Thalnir stood, or rather hovered, outside. The scientist's gelatinous body pulsed with green and purple lights, indicating curiosity and respect. "Ambassador Thorne, I hope I am not disturbing you." "Not at all, Dr. Solara. Please come in." Beck gestured to a specially designed seating area that could accommodate Thalnir physiology. "I found your proposal intriguing." Solara's colors shifted as they spoke through their translator. "Particularly your insights on adapting to hostile environments. My research team is conducting studies on extremophile adaptations that might benefit collaborative resource extraction." "I'd be interested to hear more," Beck said, genuinely curious. The Thalnir were notoriously secretive about their research. "We have a laboratory on the station's lower level. Perhaps you would honor us with a visit tomorrow before the second day's negotiations begin." Beck nodded. "I'd be delighted." After Solara departed, Beck couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Thalnir scientist had seemed forthcoming, but there was something in their color patterns, a flicker of violet-black, that typically indicated concealment, that troubled her. Still, diplomacy required trust, or at least the appearance of it. She returned to her work unaware that in less than 24 hours, that trust would be shattered by terror and blood. The second day began with Beck's visit to the Thalnir laboratory. Dr. Solara proudly displayed their experimental chambers, where they were studying organisms from the Death World. "We believe some of these biological structures could revolutionize our understanding of adaptive evolution." Solara explained, their body rippling with enthusiasm. "This specimen, for instance, has developed a metabolic system that can process toxins into nutrients." Beck examined the containment units with professional interest, noting the multiple redundant security systems. "Impressive safeguards," she commented. "Necessary precautions," Solara replied. "Death World organisms can be unpredictable. But rest assured, Ambassador, everything here adheres to GDU containment protocols." The day's negotiations were tense but productive. Late into the evening, the delegates were still debating fine points of the resource-sharing agreement when the station's lights flickered momentarily. Beck's combat instincts flared. In her experience, power fluctuations on military-grade installations were never routine. She caught the eye of Security Chief Then, of the Zori, whose compound eyes had also narrowed in concern. "Probably nothing," then, said Mandibles, clicking lightly. "The station's systems are running diagnostics after integrating some Vokari power upgrades." Beck nodded, but her hand instinctively reached for a sidearm that wasn't there. Old habits died hard. 10 minutes later, the station's emergency broadcast system activated. "Attention all personnel and delegates. This is not a drill. Containment breach in Laboratory Section 12B. All personnel evacuate from affected sectors. Security protocols Gamma 7 are now in effect." The diplomatic assembly erupted in confused murmurs. Laboratory Section 12B, the Thalnir Research Lab. Supreme Moderator Elam raised their mechanical appendages for silence. "Please remain calm. Security teams are responding to the situation. As a precaution, we will temporarily suspend this session. Please return to your quarters or designated safe areas until further notice." As the delegates began to disperse, Beck approached Dr. Solara, whose body had paled to an ashen gray, a Thalnir expression of extreme distress. "Doctor, what exactly was in your lab?" Beck asked quietly. "A research specimen," Solara replied, their voice modulator barely above a whisper. "One of our most promising studies. A predatory organism from the death world, but it was fully contained, I assure you." "What kind of predatory organism?" Beck pressed. Before Solara could answer, the station shuddered. Emergency bulkheads began to close throughout the diplomatic sector. "Everyone move quickly," Chief Then shouted, directing delegates toward evacuation routes. "We have safety protocols for this. Please proceed to your designated—" The Zori's instructions were cut short by a bone-chilling sound that echoed through the station's corridors. A roar that seemed to combine elements of both mechanical grinding and biological fury. The color drained from Solara's translucent form. "The apex," they whispered. "It's free." Beck grabbed the scientist's appendage. "What exactly is the apex?" "The apex predator from Proxima Centauri 5. The ultimate evolutionary achievement in predation. We were studying its adaptive capabilities, its unparalleled hunting efficiency." Solara's form trembled. "It is nearly indestructible." The evacuation proceeded with increasing urgency. Beck helped coordinate the movement of panicked delegates, her military training taking over as she directed traffic away from the affected sectors. The station's security teams rushed toward the containment breach, armed with standard-issue stun weapons, the only armaments permitted on the diplomatic station. 20 minutes into the evacuation, the screaming started. Security channels erupted with frantic communications. Beck accessed a nearby terminal, her diplomatic credentials giving her limited access to security feeds. What she saw sent ice through her veins. The creature was massive, at least 15 feet tall, with a body that seemed to combine aspects of insectoid and reptilian anatomies. Its exoskeleton gleamed with a metallic sheen, 6 limbs ending in claws that could shear through station bulkheads. Multiple eyes positioned around a crown-like crest gave it 360-degree vision, and a maw filled with serrated teeth dripped with something that sizzled when it hit the floor. But most horrifying was its speed. The security feed showed it moving through the corridors with impossible agility for something so large, outpacing the security teams attempting to contain it. Ambassador Chief Then appeared at her side, his compound eyes reflecting the emergency lights. "We need to get you to the secure bunker with the other primary delegates." "What about the non-primary delegates?" the station staff, Beck asked, watching, as the creature on the screen tore through another bulkhead. "Security teams are handling evacuation, but the GDU protocols are clear priority protection for primary diplomatic representatives." Then's mandibles clicked in what Beck had learned was a gesture of regret. "How many security personnel do you have engaging that thing?" 12 in direct contact, more deploying from other sectors." Beck's jaw tightened as she watched the feed. The security teams were firing stun blasts at the creature, which seemed to merely irritate it. As she watched, it seized one officer of Okari, whose crystalline form shattered in the creature's grip. "Your weapons aren't affecting it," she said. "The station's weapon protocols are going to get everyone killed," Beck finished grimly. "Chief Then, I need access to the maintenance level and any protective gear you can find." The Zori's compound eyes narrowed. "What are you planning, Ambassador?" "That thing is heading for the civilian quarters. Your security teams can't stop it with non-lethal means. I need to redirect it." "Redirect with what?" "Even if I could authorize weapons, which I cannot, what could harm that creature? The Thalnir have been studying it because it's virtually invulnerable." Beck met the security chief's gaze steadily. "Nothing is invulnerable. Every living thing has weaknesses. I need to get closer to find out what this ones are." "That is suicide, Ambassador." "So is doing nothing." Something in her tone, perhaps the calm certainty that came from decades of combat experience, gave the Zori pause. "I cannot authorize weapons," Then repeated. "But I can give you access to maintenance corridors and safety equipment. Whatever you're planning, you'll do it unarmed." Beck nodded. "Sometimes hands are all you need." Within minutes, Beck had changed into a maintenance pressure suit, not combat armor, but better than diplomatic attire. The suit would give her limited protection and enhanced strength through its servo motors. Chief Then provided her with station schematics and real-time updates on the creature's movements. "It's moving through Sector 7 heading toward the central hub. That's where most delegates are being evacuated through." Then's voice came through her suit's comm system. "I need a diversion," Beck said, moving through the maintenance corridors. "Something to draw it away from the civilians." "The creature appears to be attracted to movement and heat signatures," came Dr. Solara's voice, who had apparently joined the emergency response team. "Its natural hunting patterns on the Death World involve tracking prey through thermal detection. Can you vent some high-temperature gas near the cargo loading area? It's away from the evacuation routes, but would create a heat signature." "Possible," Then replied. "But how will you—" "Just do it, and give me access to the station-wide announcement system. I need to warn the delegates to remain still if they encounter this thing." As Beck navigated through the station's service corridors, she used the announcement system to broadcast emergency instructions. "Attention all personnel! If you encounter the escaped specimen, do not run. Its visual system is based on movement detection. Remain still until security arrives." The station shuddered again. Through her comlink, Beck heard Chief Then. "We've vented superheated plasma coolant into the cargo bay as requested. The creature is changing direction. It's responding to the heat signature." "Good," Beck replied. "Keep the evacuation moving. I'm approaching the cargo section now." The cargo bay was vast, designed to accommodate shipments for the entire station. When Beck entered through a maintenance hatch, the space was bathed in red emergency lighting. Steam from the vented coolant created an eerie fog that limited visibility. She took position behind a stack of cargo containers waiting. The suit's sensors picked up vibrations through the deck plating. Something massive was approaching. The cargo bay doors buckled inward, as if hit by a battering ram. Then again. On the third impact, they tore free from their tracks. The apex squeezed its enormous form through the opening, its multiple eyes scanning the room, its nostrils flaring at the superheated air. Up close, the creature was even more terrifying than on the security feeds. Its exoskeleton had a metallic quality that explained why stun weapons had been ineffective. What Beck had initially taken for a metallic sheen was actually a layer of evolved armor, likely containing heavy minerals from the Death World's harsh environment. The creature moved with predatory grace, its 6 limbs allowing it to climb walls and ceilings with equal ease. Beck activated her suit's comm system, keeping her voice low. "I have visual contact. This thing is heavily armored. Conventional weapons probably wouldn't even dent it." "Ambassador, the Supreme Moderator is ordering you to withdraw," came Then's urgent reply. "They're preparing to vent that entire section into space if necessary." "There are still people trapped in adjacent sections," Beck argued. You vent this bay, you kill them too. Give me a chance. To do what you're unarmed. Beck didn't respond. She was studying the creature, looking for weaknesses. Despite its formidable armor, there had to be joints, sensory organs, something vulnerable. The creature suddenly went still, its head swiveling toward Beck's position. One of its many eyes had caught a glimpse of her movement. It let out a low hiss that raised the hair on the back of her neck. Time to move. Beck darted from her hiding place just as the creature lunged forward, its claws shredding the cargo containers she had been using as cover. She rolled under a transport vehicle, the creature's massive form slamming into it, with enough force to flip the multi-ton loader onto its side. Beck, Then's voice crackled through her comm. What's happening? I'm engaging the target, she replied, her breath coming fast as she sprinted across the cargo bay, the creature in pursuit. It's fast but predictable. Standard apex predator hunting patterns. She had spotted what she was looking for, a weakness in the creature's armor at the joints where its limbs connected to its body. Like earth insects, its exoskeleton had to have flexible sections to allow movement. Those sections would be more vulnerable. The cargo bay had a secondary level, accessible by maintenance ladders. Beck raced toward one, the creature closing the distance with frightening speed. She reached the ladder and climbed the creature's claws, just missing her legs as she pulled herself onto the upper walkway. From this elevated position, she could see the creature from above. Its back was covered in the same armored plates, but there were narrow gaps between them, possibly to allow for heat regulation or flexibility. Chief Then, she called into her comm. Does this station have plasma arc welders in the maintenance bays? Yes, for hull repairs, but I need one activated and set to maximum output. Can you remotely activate it? There was a pause. This goes against all safety protocols. Safety protocols went out the airlock when that thing got loose. Do it. Below, the creature was scaling the wall toward her position, moving with unnatural speed. Plasma welder in Bay 4C is now active, Then reported reluctantly. But, Ambassador, even at maximum output, it's designed for precision cutting, not as a weapon. Not planning to use it as a weapon, Beck replied, sprinting along the walkway toward Bay 4C. Planning to use it as bait. The plasma welding station was at the far end of the cargo section. When Beck reached it, the tool was already humming with energy, its tip glowing white-hot, exactly the kind of heat signature that would attract the predator. Beck positioned herself beside the welding station, watching as the creature crawled along the ceiling directly above her. Its multifaceted eyes locked onto the heat source, saliva dripping from its maw. Perfect. When the creature dropped from the ceiling, Beck dodged to the side, using the suit's enhanced mobility. The creature's momentum carried it forward into the welding station. The superheated plasma arc connected with one of the gaps in its armor, and the creature let out a shriek that threatened to rupture Beck's eardrums. It wasn't enough to kill it, not even close, but it had done something more valuable. It had made the creature angry and disoriented it. And an angry, disoriented predator made mistakes. The creature thrashed, wildly destroying equipment and tearing through structural supports. The walkway began to collapse beneath Beck's feet. She leapt to an adjacent platform as her previous position crashed to the floor below. Beck. It was Dr. Solara's voice now. The creature's exoskeleton contains trace amounts of a metal, similar to titanium, but its underside, where its primary sensory organs are located, is more vulnerable. Its spine equivalent runs along its ventral side, not dorsal, like Earth vertebrates. That was the information Beck needed. To defeat this thing, she would need to get under it and attack its spine, a near impossible task given its speed and the fact that it never exposed its underside. Unless, then, I need you to activate the artificial gravity controls for the cargo bay. Can you create a localized gravity fluctuation? Specifically, I need you to reverse gravity in sections 4C through 4E, then restore it after 10 seconds. That might be possible, the security chief replied, but it would affect you as well. I'm counting on it. On my mark. Beck positioned herself beneath a heavy cargo crane, gripping a support beam tightly. The creature had recovered from the plasma burn and was circling the bay, hunting for her. "Now!" she shouted. The artificial gravity reversed. Everything not secured, including Beck and the creature, was suddenly pulled toward the ceiling. Beck had braced herself, gripping the support beam as her body was yanked upward. The creature, however, was caught completely by surprise. As it tumbled upward, its underside was exposed pale, segmented flesh, with less armored protection. Beck could see the pulsing neural cord that ran the length of its body, its equivalent of a spine. When the gravity restored after 10 seconds, everything fell back to the floor. Beck was ready, using the suit's enhanced strength to control her descent and land in a roll. The creature crashed down awkwardly, momentarily stunned by the impact. This was her chance. Beck charged forward the maintenance suit's servo motors, giving her added speed and strength. The creature was already recovering, rolling to get its limbs under it. Beck slid beneath it like a baseball player, stealing home, targeting the exposed neural cord. With all the enhanced strength the suit could provide, she drove her fist into the soft tissue surrounding the neural cord. The creature screamed, its body convulsing. Beck struck again, this time feeling something crack beneath her fist. The creature thrashed violently, nearly crushing her beneath its bulk. Beck rolled clear, but not before one of its claws caught her leg, tearing through the maintenance suit and into flesh. Pain exploded through her body, but combat training took over. She limped away, putting distance between herself and the wounded creature. The neural blow had damaged but not incapacitated it. The creature was disoriented, moving erratically, but still lethal. Beck needed to finish this, but her injured leg would slow her down. "Ambassador, your suit telemetry shows you're injured." Then's voice came through concern, evident even through the translator. "I'm fine," Beck gritted through clenched teeth. "But I need one more gravity reversal. On my mark." She limped toward a section of collapsed walkway, where a jagged metal support beam pointed upward like a spear. Positioning herself near it, she waited as the creature regained its bearings and locked onto her heat signature once more. It charged, its movement still uncoordinated from the neural damage, but no less deadly. Beck held her ground, timing its approach. "Mark!" The gravity reversed again. Both Beck and the creature were yanked toward the ceiling, but this time, Beck used the momentum pushing off from the floor to direct her body. As the creature tumbled upward, exposing its vulnerable underside again, Beck maneuvered herself above the jagged support beam. When gravity restored, the creature fell directly onto the makeshift spear. The metal pierced through its unarmored underside and into the neural cord. The creature's shriek was deafening. It thrashed in agony, its limbs flailing wildly, but the damage was done. The metal beam had severed its primary neural pathway. Still, it fought with primal fury, its claws raking the air as Beck approached. This was the moment that would later be recorded in the annals of galactic diplomacy, the moment when Ambassador Rebecca Thorne, representative of humanity, faced down the greatest predator the Death World had ever produced. With grim determination, Beck moved in close. The creature's movements were weakening but still dangerous. Using the maintenance suit's enhanced strength one last time, she grabbed one of the creature's primary limbs and twisted with all her might. The sound of alien chitin cracking echoed through the cargo bay. Beck didn't stop. With precise, brutal efficiency, she targeted joint after joint, limb after limb. Each blow calculated, each strike exploiting the weaknesses she had identified. And then, with the creature immobilized but still alive, Beck delivered the final blow, a two-fisted strike to the exposed neural cluster near what passed for its head. The creature's body convulsed one final time, then went still. The apex predator terror of Proxima Centauri 5 lay defeated not by advanced weaponry or overwhelming force, but by human hands guided by intelligence and determination. Beck stood over the creature's body, her breathing heavy, blood seeping from her wounded leg. Only then did she notice the observation cameras that had captured the entire confrontation and the stunned faces of the diplomatic delegation watching from the security center. The aftermath unfolded with the same diplomatic precision that characterized Galactic Union proceedings, though now tinged with a new respect for humanity's representative. Medical teams treated Beck's injuries, while security teams secured the creature's remains. The diplomatic conference was suspended for 24 hours to allow for station repairs and a thorough investigation into the containment breach. Beck found herself in the station's medical bay, her leg treated with regenerative therapies. Ambassador Jarnox of the Vokari was the first to visit her, the crystalline being's usual imperious demeanor, noticeably subdued. Ambassador Thorne. Jarnox began inner organs, pulsing with blue and green lights, indicating respect. The delegation has reviewed the security recordings of your encounter with the specimen. It was most instructive. Beck raised an eyebrow. Instructive. Indeed. The Vokari have always considered humans to be physically inferior, enduring your presence in galactic affairs as a courtesy to an emerging species. Jarnox's crystalline form shifted in what Beck had learned was their equivalent of discomfort. We may have been mistaken in our assessment. We humans have a saying, Beck replied. Don't judge a book by its cover. An apt metaphor. Your species appears soft, fragile even. Yet you possess qualities that are not immediately apparent: resourcefulness, adaptability, and a remarkable capacity for controlled violence when necessary. Is that a compliment or a warning, Ambassador? Jarnox's inner lights pulsed with what might have been amusement. Perhaps both. The Supreme Moderator has called for a special session once you are recovered. I believe your actions have altered the trajectory of our negotiations. After the Vokari departed, Dr. Solara visited their gelatinous form, still pale with distress. Ambassador Thorne, I come to offer my deepest apologies for the incident. The containment breach was the result of an unforeseen interaction between our experimental protocols and the station's power systems. You were studying that creature to understand how it survived on the Death World, Beck said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Its adaptive capabilities are unparalleled, a perfect evolutionary response to the harshest environment known to sentient life. We believe that understanding its biology might help us develop better extraction methods for the planet's resources. And did you consider the ethical implications of bringing such a predator onto a diplomatic station? Solara's form rippled with shame. We followed all containment protocols. The odds of a breach were calculated at less than 0.001%. In my experience, Doctor, when the stakes are high enough, even the smallest chances tend to manifest. Beck's tone was stern, but not unkind. Your research nearly cost hundreds of lives. A fact that will haunt me for the remainder of my existence, Solara admitted. The Thalnir research contingent has submitted a formal apology to the GDU and withdrawn our proposal for exclusive research rights on Proxima Centauri 5. We recognize that our judgment was flawed. Beck nodded. Acknowledging mistakes is the first step toward not repeating them. There is something else. Solara continued, their colors shifting to a more serious pattern. The recording of your confrontation with the Apex has been transmitted throughout Galactic Union space. It has become, in your human terminology, viral content. Beck groaned. That's not exactly the diplomatic first impression Earth was hoping to make. On the contrary, came a new voice. Chief Then entered the medical bay compound, eyes gleaming. The recording has generated unprecedented support for human inclusion in galactic affairs. Many species previously dismissive of human capabilities are now reconsidering their positions. They're impressed by violence, Beck asked skeptically. Not by violence, Then corrected. By effective action in crisis. By sacrifice for others. Most diplomatic representatives would have evacuated to safety, leaving station personnel to handle the threat. You chose differently. I did what anyone would have done. No, Then said firmly. You did what a human would have done. And that distinction has become significant in galactic politics. 2 days later, fully recovered thanks to advanced medical technology, Beck attended the reconvened diplomatic session. The atmosphere was noticeably different. Where before there had been thinly veiled condescension toward the human delegation, Now there was attentive respect. Supreme Moderator Elam called the session to order, their mechanical shell gleaming under the hall's lights. Before we resume negotiations regarding Proxima Centauri 5, we must address the events of 2 days ago. The containment breach has been fully investigated, and appropriate measures have been taken to prevent any recurrence. The moderator's sensors turned toward Beck. Ambassador Thorne, your actions during the crisis have been reviewed by the Security Council. While they constituted a technical violation of station protocols regarding unauthorized access to restricted areas, the Council has unanimously voted to commend, rather than censure, your intervention. Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. Furthermore, Elam continued, the incident has highlighted certain inadequacies in our emergency response protocols. The Council proposes the establishment of what we are calling the Beck-Thorne Directive, a provision allowing for humanitarian intervention in crisis situations, even when such intervention might technically violate standard procedures. Beck sat straighter in her chair, surprised by the turn of events. Now, regarding our primary agenda, the resource allocation on Proxima Centauri 5, I believe recent events have demonstrated the value of a collaborative approach as initially proposed by the human delegation. Ambassador Jarnox, are the Vokari prepared to reconsider their position on exclusive mining rights? The crystalline ambassador's inner lights pulsed with diplomatic colors. We are. The Vokari Consortium recognizes that different species bring different strengths to this endeavor. Humans have demonstrated an unexpected aptitude for problem-solving in hostile environments. One by one, the delegations that had previously been entrenched in their positions expressed new willingness to consider collaborative approaches. The Thalnir offered their biological expertise, but acknowledged the need for oversight. The Zori proposed logistical frameworks that would ensure fair distribution of resources. By the conference's end, what had begun as a potential flashpoint for interstellar conflict had transformed into a model for multi-species cooperation. The Elysium Accords, as they came to be known, established a joint operation on Proxima Centauri 5, drawing on the strengths of each civilization, while respecting the deadly environment of the Death World. As the final agreements were being formalized, Beck found herself once again at the viewport in her quarters, gazing at the stars. The door chimed and Supreme Moderator Elam entered at her invitation. Ambassador Thorne, I wish to speak with you privately before the closing ceremony. Of course, Moderator. What can I do for you? The neutron-based lifeform's mechanical shell hummed softly as they approached. The Galactic Diplomatic Union has existed for over 2,000 years. In that time, we have incorporated hundreds of species into our collective. Each brings unique perspectives and abilities. And humanity. What do we bring? Beck asked. Something unexpected, Elam replied. Most species enter galactic society with either overwhelming technological advantage or crippling disadvantage. Humans possess neither. You are by most objective measures unremarkable average technology, average lifespan, average planetary resources. Beck waited, sensing there was more. Yet you are remarkable in one aspect, your adaptability. You thrive in environments that would crush others. You find solutions where others see only obstacles. The moderator's sensors focused on Beck. The recording of your confrontation with the Apex has been studied by military strategists across the galaxy. Do you know what they found most impressive? My stunning good looks while fighting alien monsters, Beck quipped. A series of harmonic tones emanated from Elam's shell, their version of laughter. They were impressed that you never once attempted to kill the creature until you had no other choice. Even in combat, you sought the minimum effective force. This is unusual. Most species either avoid violence entirely or embrace it fully. We've had a lot of practice finding the middle ground. Indeed. The GDU Security Council has voted to create a new position, Special Strategic Ambassador. They have requested that you be Earth's first appointee to this role. Beck's eyebrows rose in surprise. I'm a field marine who got pushed into diplomacy because I was in the right place at the wrong time. There are better candidates. Perhaps, but none who have dismembered a galactic apex predator with their bare hands while diplomats stood frozen in fear. Elam's tone carried what might have been dry humor. Sometimes, Ambassador Thorne, the right person for a job, is not the one with the most qualifications, but the one with the most appropriate instincts. 3 days later, as the diplomatic contingents prepared to depart Elysium Station, Beck stood at the main observation deck, watching the starships undock one by one. The Beck-Thorne Directive had been formally adopted into GDU protocols, and humanity's position within galactic society had been irrevocably altered. Chief Then approached, standing beside her, in companionable silence for a moment before speaking. The station will seem quiet after all this excitement. Too quiet, I hope, Beck replied with a smile. Indeed, the Zori's mandibles clicked in amusement. You know, when I first learned a human was being appointed as Earth's ambassador, I researched your species extensively. Your history is contradictory, capable of both tremendous compassion and staggering brutality. We contain multitudes, Beck said. It's both our greatest strength and our greatest challenge. The recording of your fight has generated an interesting response among younger Zori. Applications to our exchange program with Earth have increased 300%. Beck laughed. They're in for a disappointment if they think all humans go around punching alien monsters. I don't think that's why they're applying, Then said thoughtfully. I think they recognize something in you that transcends species, the willingness to act decisively when action is needed, and to show restraint when restraint is called for. That balance is rare in the galaxy. As the last diplomatic vessel departed, leaving only the station's permanent staff and a few remaining delegates, Beck's communication device chimed with a message from Earth Command. Her new assignment as Special Strategic Ambassador had been confirmed. She would be traveling to worlds where human-alien relations were particularly tense, serving as both diplomat and, if necessary, last line of defense. She closed the message and took one last look at the stars. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers in equal measure. Humanity was still finding its place among the ancient civilizations that had mastered interstellar travel millennia ago. But they had made a start, not through overwhelming force or advanced technology, but through that uniquely human combination of adaptability, determination, and controlled strength that had allowed them to survive and thrive on their own death world. Rebecca Beck Thorne, former Marine commander, now Special Strategic Ambassador, turned from the viewport and headed toward her next assignment. Whatever challenges waited among the stars, humanity would face them, as they always had, with open hands, ready for either peace or war as circumstances demanded. The galaxy had seen what human hands were capable of. Now it was time to show what human hearts could achieve.